last week I did a shoot for a friend. He and his wife are starting up a new business, and part of that was grabbing a testimonial from one of their clients. Now, behind here, you'll see it's Loretta, and what she's doing is just giving a testimonial. It's pretty straightforward. It's just sit down, talk to the camera. But one of the issues I was running into is that my friends had a bunch of photos and photo frames in the background. And so the lantern, the diffuser that I used, the softbox basically, it peeked in and reflected from the glass off one of the photos. I played around with it. It's best to always try to get the shot perfect in camera. And so I tried, but just the way the lighting is or needed to be, and the ceiling, I couldn't avoid having my light in the frame. But luckily I knew in the back of my mind that with Adobe generative AI and some Photoshop and some masking, I could take that out. So I wanted to show you guys that because I think it's something useful to have in case you are in a situation where maybe you didn't notice in camera, or you just need to remove things. You can also even change the whole background in the scene as well. Now, the key here, it works because Loretta is pretty stationary. She's just sitting and talking. If you have talent that's moving around, if the camera's moving around a lot, it's going to be a lot more work. But in this case, it's pretty stationary, so it's nice and easy to just mask her out, and then I can mess with the background as I need. So anyways, I think it's a pretty useful process, and I thought I'd show you today. So we're in Final Cut Pro here, and what you'll see is just a pretty simple, straight shot. And the issue, like I mentioned, see how my lantern here is that diffuser, the softbox, is peeking through and is reflecting there. And like I said, I didn't have a choice. Plus, I had faith that I knew there was enough headroom here, and that she wasn't moving too much, so I could basically mask this out. Now, what I didn't anticipate was actually me, and you'll see me here. Keep an eye on this area here on this picture frame. You see how I go through? See, there's me kind of swaying in the background as I'm monitoring what's happening. And so I didn't expect that. But again, luckily, Loretta is just in this middle frame, and she doesn't really raise her hands or do any crazy moves. So I thought, it should be pretty easy to mask out this and this. So first thing we'll do is find a nice frame. So I'm going to find a frame that is hiding me pretty well, which is basically that one's pretty good. See, I'm not in the frame there, no reflections. I only have to deal with the one, which is great. So keep make that your chosen point, and then we're going to go up to here, and we're going to go to Save Current Frame. Now, if you don't see this in your Final Cut, go to Add Destination, and then double-click Save Current Frame. When you double-click that, it'll move it to the options here on the side. You'll then close that window, and then you'll come back, and then when you go to share, it should show it here. So now we're going to click on Save Frame. You're just going to save that. We'll just save this as with light. I already did this, but just doing it again to show you. Sorry, there it is. Now I'm going to open it in Photoshop. Okay, so I always just like to Control J just to have an extra copy so I'm not messing up the original one. Now we're going to take a look at this. Now the beauty of AI is with generative fill, you just use the lasso tool or any selection tool really. I just grabbed this lasso, and you always want to give it some space so it's got some breathing room around what you want to fix to give the AI a little more context, or at least I find it works better that way. In this one, I'll just leave it blank and then click generate. That menu bar should pop up. If you don't, then I guess Google how to get that up, but it should be automatic for you. Beautiful. It did it right off the bat. I think that's great. I don't even need to mess around with it. And like I said, luckily there was a frame that I had without me standing and showing my reflection. But if you need to do more, you just do that. And I'll just show you for fun here. Let's say, actually here, I did just notice this now. That is a backlight, and it looks like one of my USB cables is sticking out. Oops. So likely what I'll do, it's simpler just to crop in a touch. But if I wanted to remove it completely, let's see what we can get from there. Awesome. Looks great. So maybe I'll use that. And then let's see. Imagine you didn't want this. Let's just see how crazy generative AI can be. Okay, let's just remove that and let's see what it looks like. Awesome. How cool is that? And let's just to show you, imagine you wanted to put, I don't know, a wall plant. Let's see what that might look like. It might not. Who knows? So you can mess around with it. What I'm trying to show here is that basically you can manipulate the background, provided that your talent isn't moving around a whole lot. And so the areas of the scene that are stationary, you can definitely just add to it. So, oh, there's some hangers here. So it gives you options. Like, that's pretty cool. And generative AI is pretty good. Like, it has a bit of that blur. So it's trying to match the background or match the area you're selecting. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. So anyways, once you're done, you'll just save the image. And then when you go back, you place that image. So just drag it from here, pop it here. That's what this one is, the lilac lane background. Pop it on top, and then you go to your effects, and then masks and keying, and that shows draw mask. So you drag that on top, and that would give you this window. And all you're doing is simply just selecting your points. Don't worry, you can move the points after. Connect it, and once that's done, you can click invert mask. So this is what it looked like when I did it initially, and it's just selecting the object or basically in this case the talent. And if I go invert mask, it's selecting everything outside of her. So that's why. So keep an eye here. That light, see, just disappears. So now it's just showing the background that we just did. So I could, go back and save the original, or like I said, I still have some issues here, so I could always crop this in. So imagine we take this and this, and then we just scale it a touch. And maybe to there. When you play through,
having this bit of a scope creep. Oh, that looks good, so let's do something else.
See, she's only moving kind of down here. So keep an eye if she's, I'll just show you, sorry, just to really illustrate it for you. So imagine here, if I made this too small or too tight, what would happen is it's taking more of the background, and see, it's stationary, right? So does that make sense? So hopefully that does, and then you're just kind of watching through and making sure that if, for example, she put her arms straight out and like her arms went out to here, then I'd have to really draw the mask out further, right? Again, my only concern points is here and here. So as long as all of this could be basically just wide open if I wanted to. But you're just making sure that the movement in the scene isn't hitting the masks, and then you should be okay. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. That helped save me a lot of headaches. I mean, in a world where there wasn't masking and this generative AI, maybe you would have had to reshoot. You know what I mean? It would have been pretty tough. So now, if that light was behind her head or something like that, then I'd have a really hard problem. I'm trying to probably keyframe and mask all this. But like I said, luckily she was centralized in the frame, and my error was sort of on the outsides, and I just knew that I could fix it. And actually, while I have this window open, let me show you this. If you just want to keep your color grading quite simple, and as I do, I kind of keep it like natural for both my commercial and wedding projects. So I will do, this is an adjustment layer. It's a free layer on my website. I don't know if you've never used one. It just allows you to easily make changes to color or to the image itself without messing around with the actual layer. So then you can always just delete that, and it just makes things a lot simpler. So you're not always having to affect that. Plus, if you're doing multiple clips and this is like, it's an hour long, you can just drag this effect across your entire timeline. So the adjustment layer is super handy to have. And again, it's free on my site. But basically on the main layer here, I always just add my LUT to it. So let me turn this off so it doesn't look confusing here. So this is the base layer. This is shot in S-Log3. And so I always just go over here to my effects, I'll grab the custom LUT. I'll drag it on top. And then from there, there's a couple. I found the Alistair look, G1. Those are free download I found. That was great. Or just the Sony is great too. This is straight up from Sony. And then from there, I'll add that adjustment layer I was just mentioning. And so this is just with the color correction. And now here's with my atomic punch. So I've got sort of this 4-pack here of cool, nostalgia, punch, and warmth that I use. Usually either using punch or nostalgia. And so this is just there. So there's my LUT at 30%. And it just adds a little more contrast, a little more boost in tones, but nothing crazy. And I always like warmth. So it adds a bit of that for me. And then I'll adjust to taste just with some color real action here. But that's about it. I don't go too crazy. Once in a while, I'll use Dehancer. So there's a film emulation plugin, and it's called Dehancer. And there's a lot it can do. So if I add that on to this top layer, there's a whole bunch of different film emulations you can go through. Now, I will either use typically an Edichrome, a Fuji 400H, or one of the Cine stills. But yeah, depends on the mood and the project. And then if you want, as you notice, there's grain, but I typically take that grain off for kind of commercial stuff. Grain I usually might keep for like personal or something fun, but for client work, they typically like it pretty clean. And then you can change the print profile. This one gives most contrast, the Kodak Endura. And then the only other thing I'll add, again, more for my own, I might add halation, especially if you have like stronger light sources. It's got that red outline. It looks like old school film, so it's kind of fun. But depending if it needs it, I think I might have had a mist filter. If I don't, or if I feel like it looks better with a bit of softening, I'll add the bloom in post. And so you can play around with different strengths in that. I don't know if you can notice on there, but it just adds a bit of, softness and bloom to things. So depending on the subject or what's happening, that might be a good choice. So yeah, there's a lot it can do, but I just kind of keep it simple with that, and I don't add too much. And I think I have my Lightroom presets, but I don't know if I've added this trio, this LUT pack, so I'll have to add that to my shop as well. But so yeah, sponsored by me if you want to help out the channel and just show some love and support. But anyways, yeah, let's end it there. I think this was a nice practical use case for you guys out there in case you're in a scenario where you are restricted and or maybe certain things you didn't notice was in frame, and that's a quick and easy way to change things and just enhance the image for you. So hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.